now we're going to move right into Q&A. So I will be moderating the Q&A, and unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get through everyone's, but you can always DM our speakers or reach out to them on social media. And if they're Banish specific, you can also DM us on Instagram or email us info@banish.com. All right. So Michaela Gleason says, what is the hormone in the body that increases sebum production from eating meat, dairy, sugar, and fat?
Yeah, so it's not a hormone. It's something called mTORC1, but it's triggered by an amino acid in meat that's also in dairy called leucine. So there's a high amount of that in both of those. So when you have that, it increases mTORC. Then the more mTORC that you have in your body, the more your sebum is produced in your pores, unfortunately.
Thank you, Brian. So Rebecca Dewis asks, if you've tried all the remedies for your gut, is it worth going to a nutritionist, even if I have a gut test regarding suggested foods to eat?
So is the gut test you did a food sensitivity test? So there's so many different tests out there. I would say it's still worth finding somebody that you can have be that sounding board, because I think it really does help to have somebody kind of on the outside look into your specific situation as well. And then I will say I'm not the biggest fan if it is a food sensitivity test. Those have a lot of false positives and false negatives. So I wouldn't rest on that.
Great. Thanks, Danny. We have a couple of questions. Exactly what is the test, the stool test, that we should ask our doctors about?
So depending on where you're at, I've had a lot of clients ask their doctor for it and they won't give it to them because I'm here in the United States and it's an insurance thing, a lot of red tape. I ship it to my clients and they do it on their own. You do have to pay out of pocket for it, but it's like $250. But it's essentially a stool test. It's called a comprehensive digestive stool analysis. I use the one from Genova Diagnostic Labs. And essentially what it looks at is 4 main pillars within your gut. So it looks at digestion, absorption, metabolic markers, and your bacterial balance. So what does your microbiome look like, which is the good bacteria, and what we call commensal bacteria, which is bacteria that necessarily neither good nor bad, but if it gets overgrown, it can definitely become an issue. So it looks at those 4 main points. And then we go from there in developing like a personalized protocol for you. But if you want to try, ask your doctor for a comprehensive digestive stool analysis test, also known as a CDSA.
Great. Thank you, Danny. And then next question from Brad. Hi, Brian. What did you substitute whey protein in for muscle growth?
Yeah, so that's definitely one that's hard when you're trying to gain muscle. It's like everything has whey protein or casein protein powder in it, and it's hard to get away from it. So I first started with like the most boring, worst tasting thing in the world, which is just unflavored brown rice protein. It's terrible. Don't ever do it. It's very cheap, but it sucks. Eventually I looked at different brands. So there's a lot of cheap brands, like Costco has like Orgain, which is like a mix of like pea protein, hemp protein, and sometimes different types of protein like soy. The one I currently use, specifically use it because it's acne friendly. It's raw, so it never goes over a certain temperature. It also doesn't have artificial preservatives, colors, or sweeteners. All those things, again, bloat you and cause issues with your gut. So it's a little more expensive because of that, but I do like it because everything that they use is raw. And also they use fermented pea protein. So it's called Vivo Life. Yeah, if you want to check that out, it's on my Team Acne YouTube channel and stuff. I won't give my discount codes and stuff. I feel like that's stealing.
All right. Thank you, Brian. And we'll also try to put some more in the follow-up email. So we'll try to get these names out there for you in the follow-up email. And then Taylor asks, this is probably for all of us, do you like drinking celery juice?
I'll start. I actually, when I first tried it, it was super salty and I spat it out. So I added like a little bit of lemon or like cucumbers, and that really helped the taste. And I think it's just celery on its own isn't an acquired taste. It takes a while to really get used to the taste. I did have like a bit of like stomach aches because I don't think my body was used to the celery in the beginning, but after like 10 days, my body was fine and it was taking on really well. I mean, any juices in the morning really help my body. So I think it's worth it.
I have some in my fridge, like 4 feet away from me, and I don't love it, but I do drink it. So like, I just drink it like it's like, I don't know, like alcohol or something. You're like, I don't like it, but I'm trying to get the effects. So I'm just like, drink it, and then I just drink some water afterwards.
Yeah, I would say I'm not averse to celery juice. Like if you like it and it feels good for your body, go for it. I don't think it's going to hurt you unless obviously you're allergic to celery. I personally don't do it, but I did try it when it was all the rage.
Same here. when it was like, I don't know, when was it super popular? Like 3 years ago that everyone was like on the celery juice train. I was doing it like every morning and I really liked it, but I feel like now, just for me personally, if I'm going to juice, I'm going to do like a bunch of different things in it, not just celery. So that's just my personal preference though.
Great, thank you. And then next question, Apurva asks, how did the purging stage while taking prescription medication affect your mental health?
Is this one's for me, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I'm guessing, yeah.
So actually for me, I didn't have a purge. So a lot of people on Accutane, it could go either way. So my skin actually only consistently got clearer. But for some people, they do have a purge. And I would actually recommend checking out another warrior's page, Isotretinoin with S, Sophia. She took Accutane and she did have a purge. So I think her account would be a lot more helpful for you with this question. Sorry, I can't help.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. Question from Myra. This is a very specific question. What would just one area of the face breaking out mean? And what would be the best way to try detoxing your liver?
Well, I would ask, where on your face is it? A lot of times,
The right
if
side.
if you're holding your phone up to that specific area, or you're like used to sleeping on that side or something like that, that could be a really good indication. So I would just be aware of that. As far as detoxifying your liver, there's a lot of great herbs that you can do. You do want to be careful, just because you just want to be careful anytime you are going to go through a detox, because it can be very uncomfortable and it can be dangerous. But I really love like a pretty standard herb that's really good for liver is like milk thistle or dandelion. I usually recommend them in like tea form to start out and just see how you do. So yeah, I would start there.
Great. Thanks, Danny. Next question for Brian. Since you don't drink milk or dairy, what do you supplement with to get calcium?
There's so many questions about veganism. I want to know more specifically about my vegan diet. I do have an actual like fitness and food channel. So it's just my name, Brian Turner. It's actually like my main channel. But specifically for calcium, it's actually not that hard to get calcium in. If you are having any sort of plant milk, they fortify it with most of the things that are in dairy milk, which is also fortified. So it has like B12 and calcium, things like that. But I also get a ton of calcium from vegetables because I do eat a lot of greens. So like spinach, broccoli, asparagus. Those are like my main greens, and I get a lot of calcium from those.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we have a lot of questions about diet. And then any kind of Banish related questions, we'll try to get to those in the chat, or you can DM us too. Someone asked, what do you think about apple cider vinegar for gut health?
Brian, if you want to jump in on this one too, you can. So apple cider vinegar, you do need to be careful with as well, because if you have any sort of like ulcer or severe inflammation in your gut, it's going to burn and it's not going to do you any good. Like that's a one thing. Do not work through the burn. If it burns, stop. One thing it can help with though is if you tend to get acid reflux or heartburn, it's a great way to help reacidify your stomach, because when you are getting heartburn, it's actually a lack of stomach acid. And so you can do like 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar and water. But again, if it burns, don't do it.
Great. Thanks, Danny. And then Ola asks, does Accutane help clear scars?
So no, Accutane won't help your scars. It will help any superficial scarring, and you might feel like it helps your scars because you're not getting any new pimples while you're on it. So, all the hyperpigmentation and all that is going to slowly fade throughout however long you're on it, 5-6 months. But the deep pitted scars, that it's not going to help that.
Right, thanks. Claire asks, from your experience, does spicy food have an effect on your skin? It's for all of our panelists.
I'll probably answer this one. So as an Asian, you're expected to be able to take spicy food, but it doesn't work with my skin. Like I feel like with spicy food, it causes greater inflammation in my body, and I get an indication when my lips go fatter. So I can't do spicy, and it definitely does inflame my skin. Like I notice that whenever I have like spicy junk food, especially, like my skin gets oilier the next day and I get new pimples. So definitely not for me.
For me, I haven't seen a correlation with spicy food or not. So I think it depends for everyone. Someone had a question for Danny. What is your diet like usually? Like what do you eat on a daily basis?
So the only like quote unquote diet that I prescribe to is I am a non-celiac gluten intolerant person. That's the only thing I like religiously stay away from. But I try to, like, I like to do more of like the pagan diet is what they say. So a lot of fruits and vegetables, a lot of that prebiotic fiber, which is where you're going to get fruits and vegetables. But I eat meat. I'll do splurges. Last night I had cheese pizza on gluten-free crust. So I am a big advocate of making it a lifestyle. When I was going through my acne, I did stay away from certain foods because I do think you have to go through a healing process. And I stayed away from gluten, dairy, corn, sugar. Yeah, those are the 4 main ones that I stayed away from while I was healing. And now I feel like since I've healed my gut, I have this resilience now, which is really nice. Brian, I don't know if you can relate, but I almost feel like my gut can handle when I have those splurges now so much better than it used to.
All right, so we're going to go to our last question. And again, we will include everyone's social media handles. So if you want to ask any of our speakers questions, you can do that offline. And anything related to Banish products, we can also answer them in our DM or info@banish.com. I just want to make sure we get questions for our speakers here. So last question from Tyne Robinson. Have any of you tried fully supported fasting to detox your body to improve your skin? So I guess any kind of fasting to detox your body.
So I never actually like tried doing fasting specifically for acne, but back in the day I was intermittent fasting. Especially will do this kind of a diet whenever I'm trying to like diet or lose fat for like a bodybuilding competition. Basically intermittent fasting, put it simple, is like you don't eat for a certain amount of hours in a day, which is 16 hours for me, and then you do for the other 8 hours. So what I was doing is I was eating nothing for 16 hours. And then for like the last couple hours before I went to bed, I'd eat all my calories at once. For me, it worked well for the dieting portion of it, but I saw no difference in my acne. I don't know if anyone else has a different story on that.
So I do intermittent fasting on and off. I found it, I didn't do it when I had acne, but I do find it helped my gut a lot. And we know that like through different studies, certain good bacteria only grow in states of fasting. And so it is very beneficial for gut health. I will say as women though, you do want to be careful if you do any sort of intermittent fasting because it can kind of get screwy with our hormones. And so one thing that's really beneficial is to do fasting with your circadian rhythm. And so you still eat breakfast in the morning, but then you stop eating later in the day, kind of as your cortisol is going down and whatnot. This will help because I've had some women say like, gosh, it really just didn't do well for me. But because we have a lot of hormones going on at all times of the month, sometimes it's better to like get up, break your fast within an hour of waking, and then just stop eating around like 5 or 6 o'clock and then go 12, 14, 16, however you want to go.
Yeah. And for me, I did intermittent fasting. I actually would skip breakfast because at night I couldn't sleep unless I had food. But it really helped get rid of that like belly fat for me. And it didn't hurt my skin. So I didn't see a huge improvement in my skin, but it definitely didn't make it worse. And the biggest benefit was my migraines went away. I usually get migraines if I skip meals. So it helped with my blood sugar, which I think would also help, with that cystic acne. So yeah, you can try it and see if it works. Again, we all have, different schedules and it might work for some people. It doesn't, but for me, it didn't hurt. And it actually helped me lose like fat around my belly. All right, so thank you all so much